Now to a story that critics say is already a foreign policy scandal. We're getting a clearer picture of what really happened on September 11th at the U.S. mission in Benghazi and the politics of what some see as a cover-up. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Chief Washington James Rosen has the latest timeline. But we begin with Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry on the continuing spin cycle from the Obama administration. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Brett. As new details emerge and the story keeps changing, Republicans are stepping up their attacks on the president's credibility.
Another day, another version of exactly what went down in Libya nearly 2 weeks ago.
What happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack.
The confusion started September 12th in a little-noticed section of President Obama's Rose Garden remarks right after the tragedy.
No acts of terror will ever shake the resolve of this great nation.
Despite that reference to terrorism, top officials spent the next week insisting they could not say it was a terror attack and suggested it was more likely a spontaneous reaction to an anti-Muslim film.
The best assessment we have today is that, in fact, this was not a pre-planned, premeditated attack.
I'm not going to put labels on this until we have a complete investigation, okay?
Our interest is in finding out the facts of what happened, not taking what we've read in the newspaper and making bold assertions.
And even when Carney flipped his thinking Thursday aboard Air Force One and told reporters it was self-evident there was a terror attack, within a couple of hours, the president was asked whether it was terror and would not directly answer.
We're still doing an investigation, and there are going to be different circumstances in different countries. And so I don't want to speak to something until we have all the information.
With Secretary of State Hillary Clinton returning to Carney's answer today, the ping-pong answers, coupled with a closed-door intelligence briefing for lawmakers on Thursday that Senator Lindsey Graham called a waste of time, is leading top Republicans to question the White House's credibility.
I asked specifically how many security personnel were at the consulate. Said we'll get back with you on that. There are numbers all over the board.
Those questions are white hot for the president just weeks before the election, with an NBC News Wall Street Journal poll this week finding his approval on foreign policy has dipped to just 49%, while disapproval is up to 46%. While a CBS News New York Times poll found his approval at 50% and disapproval at only 36%, the president was blunt today at a campaign event in Virginia about reassuring the public he's keeping Americans safe at home and abroad.
We still face serious threats in the world. We have to make sure that not only our military but also our diplomats overseas are protected.
Except Pentagon officials initially claimed U.S. Marines were in another part of Libya protecting the U.S. Embassy before the Benghazi attack, and then admitted that was not true, while State Department officials initially said there were no Libyan security guards inside the perimeter of the U.S. consulate and had to walk that back.
You hate to think that the president would purposely mislead the American people, but it sure looks like it to me.
Now, administration officials flatly reject any notion that they've misled the public. They insist the only reason the account has changed is because new facts have emerged since this is still an ongoing investigation. Brett?
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. Now to what we know about what really happened in Benghazi. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen looks at how the deadly attack in Libya unfolded. A warning, some of these images may be disturbing.
As in many fateful battles, the outcome of the September 11 terrorist attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi and the deadly fighting that erupted some 5 hours later at an American safe house or annex half a mile away was decided before hostilities began.
External armed security, as we have been saying, outside of the perimeter was fully handled by the Libyan side.
It just concerns me so greatly that there were not Marines present in Benghazi to defend the consulate.
How could an attack go on that long, and what kind of response did we have in place?
What's more, the terrorists appear to have had help from fellow Libyans assigned to protect the Americans. Sean Smith, the slain IT officer at the consulate, reportedly used his online name, Vile Rat, to post a message on a chat room board at 12:54 p.m. Benghazi time. Assuming we don't die tonight, Smith wrote, we saw one of our quote-unquote police that guard the compound taking pictures.
The reports of complicity, and they are many, with the Libyan guards who were assigned to guard the consulate also suggests to me that this was premeditated.
At 9:35 that night, sources tell Fox News, a mob, 100 strong, many of its members armed, gathered at the compound gates. They were not there to protest a video. Instead, they began shooting and breached the perimeter within minutes.
The attack began and evolved and escalated over several hours.
Lots of command and control, indirect fire, direct fire. There was even a stop for some period of time in the fighting, and then it was re-engaged at another location around the consulate.
Arson broke out quickly. The Obama administration has said only 3 people were inside the consulate at the time: Ambassador Chris Stevens, Sean Smith, and a security officer recently identified as Dave Ubben, the only one of the 3 to escape. Ubben was later badly wounded in the second battle at the safe house, and the Wall Street Journal reports the Maryland native is now recuperating at Walter Reed. Libyan reinforcements and some American security guards made repeated plunges inside the fiery consulate building to look for survivors, but only found the body of Sean Smith. Not until after midnight did Libyan looters come upon the lifeless body of Ambassador Stevens. Intelligence sources tell Fox News the attackers had been heard to say, "We got him." The ambassador's corpse was dragged from the compound and brought to a nearby hospital. A Libyan doctor said Stevens succumbed to smoke inhalation, but a photo taken that night also showed a bloody gash on the ambassador's head. There have been even darker suggestions, unconfirmed, about what might also have been done to Stevens that night. The surviving Americans, meantime, reportedly used 2 vehicles to retreat to the annex a half-mile away.
We are conducting interviews, gathering evidence, and trying to sort out the facts.
Among the many critical questions the FBI is trying to resolve is how and when the mob learned the whereabouts of the annex, whose location was a tightly kept secret. It was there that former Navy SEALs Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods were killed in an attack that was even better equipped and more sophisticated than the first wave.
People on the ground have seen the fragments of the remains of the mortars and the heavy weapons that were used.
We made clear that there were armed assailants who used heavy weapons.
I just don't think that people come to protests equipped with RPGs and other heavy weapons.
President Obama was first briefed about the Benghazi attack about 90 minutes after it began. What has emerged since then, however, from the missed opportunities to redress the inadequate security to the deaths involved and the geopolitical ramifications of the event, up to and including the shifting accounts of it put forward by the administration, is the dawn of a major foreign policy scandal, one that will be investigated and dissected, Brett, in hearings and official proceedings for years to come.
The first U.S. ambassador killed since 1979.
Right.
James, thank you.